Hi there, this is Popo, I hope you're fine. Welcome back to the Matches New Era tournament, round 3. And as the round 2 just finished, we now have the results. Okay, so today we're going to review the two games played between Lolo and Pouace. So let's get started. Okay, so for the first game, Lolo gets the white pieces with the Demons faction, and Pouace gets the black pieces with the Aliens faction. The Demons faction unite are allowed to make some very powerful attacks because of a broken pattern, and the Aliens faction with their Time Mage thing can play multiple pieces at once. For now, this faction have been crushing the entire tournament, so this is a little the clash of the titans for this game. Let's see how it goes. The game starts with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c5, the system defense, and now imp to e3. So this broken pattern allows the imp to go here. So if you want to check at any time the pattern of the pieces, just check the split rune on the left. We have scoot to c6, rook to c3, so this attacks the pawn here thanks to the broken pattern, so it's defended with pawn to d6. And now rook to f3, pawn to e6, and Lolo strikes with pawn to d4. The idea here is to get the big attack here, and if you decide to take, actually this is going to add piece to the attack, but at the same point this is very hard to dodge. Here, what you should do maybe in this kind of positions to take with the scoot on d4, and then ask some piece to trade, maybe the rook trades, then this is taken here. And you see that you have only two pieces really in the attack here. But because of pawn captures, now this is an auxiliary, this is not forced to be captured with the rook of the other imp. So the second imp comes into the game, and now we have 4 pieces to the attack here. And it looks very terrifying, and although the aliens are pretty fast, here you see that the development is pretty slow. What you should do here in this position is to trade here, and let's say any piece captures, for example this one, you just capture this way, and normally you're better. If the rook decides to capture, then you're just going to capture this, and let's say captures, and then maybe you're going to develop maybe this piece, and then okay, you're pretty safe here in this position, and the game continues. Somehow the position should be equal. But here in the game instead we have a mech to d7, and because the mech moves 1 square, the other mech is allowed to move passively 1 to 3 squares. So we have in the same turn a mech to e7 which is played. And here, yeah, I don't think the position is quite good, but okay, the game continues. We have devil to d2, and now this devil directly attacks with a jump d square, and you should do something. Here, this is not that easy to defend the position, I have to concede that. But as long as you have 2 defenders on this position, this should be okay normally. Here in the game, we have scoot takes d4, which is the best move to be played, and after rook captures, here you should play the Saucer here. And that would defend this. Maybe that would allow this to get here, and then try to get better position with this piece, try to get the castle here. Like, you have to be safe here in this position, because a big attack is gonna strike up there. You have 3 defenders here, and if you think that you have, for example, let's say captures, and let's say after captures, and I'll put that maybe here. There's captures here with check, you can already decide to capture this and defend this way. And let's say after captures, you capture with the tripod, so you push a pawn here, and then everything's defended. After captures, you're more than okay in this position. So nothing to worry about, but instead we have mech to f6 followed by mech to c6, which is played, and this is actually a big blunder to the game, because you're going to face a very bad time. Now we have rook takes d6, and this is check to the king, and this is also fork because it attacks the Saucer, so you're forced to take with the Saucer. But fortunately, because you take with the Saucer, you're allowed to play 1 more piece in the same turn. So here we have first mech to d5, which is the best move to be played, and normally the other mech should go here with mech to e7, because if it decides to capture there, then you can recapture it and then put it out the way. Okay, there's this move which can be played with check, and after, let's say, I don't know, maybe king to ef8, here this suddenly gets very slow, and okay, the position is a little more okay for the white pieces, as king is on castle. Maybe you're going to castle or develop directly the spire here thanks to this broken pattern, but after, let's say, some move like a tripod to d8, the game would continue, and okay, you don't dare to do it, else you're going to be trapped soon. So here, in this position, instead of Mech to e7, we have unfortunately Mech to g5. Let me show you another line maybe if you want to see for Mech to e7. If you decide to take here, for example, which is basically the best move to be played in the position, you're not forced to recapture immediately here. You can decide maybe to play this, maybe to play that. There's a lot of way to deal in this position, so I don't know. You decide to play scout to f6, then there's pawn to takes d6 here. You can just recapture with the Sosa. And now there's maybe some threats of capture with this, with some kind of tactics here. You can castle, try to get some stuff out of the way. Maybe a last line that could be played. Let's say you decide to capture with the rock here. Maybe I could decide to play pawn captures d5, and let's say, I don't know, that you have to capture here, captures and captures. The game is okay for the aliens. I mean, there are a lot of tactics in this position, but I can assure you that unless I'm mistaken, normally you're able to survive this position. But in the game, we have Mech to g5 here. Okay, the idea is that if you decide to capture and capture, then you're going to have some problem. But the biggest problem is that Pouace seems how to just completely forgot the pattern of the devil, because now the devil jumps to d6 and this is taken. And now the position is devastating loss for the aliens. The only way you can continue to play the game is to play Mech to c6 and Mech back to e7, trying to target that. And as this is a very slow piece that gets only one square backwards, then you'll be able maybe to get devil to e5 and slowly but surely try to get the counterattack here. Maybe you should play tripod to d8 to be sure to not to get the imp here in a position, and later you'll try to get something like this, castle, get the pieces into the way. I mean, you try to survive this position and make this devil looks very stupid and try to get the counterattack. I don't say that the position is okay for you because you're done 6 points of material with a big attack for the white pieces, but somehow you can still play it. But here instead we have Mech captures e3, and after pawn captures d5, the Mech goes back on b6, and you see that the Mech pair is gone, so you don't have any activity, and there's still a pawn here. So now we have pawn to e6, which is played, and the big threat here is their checker followed by mate here. So in the game we have scout to f6, so defending here this square and wanting maybe to castle later. I mean, you could have captured maybe in this position if it looks good because there is this check here, but that's a way of surviving. But scout to f6 is played, and now we have the terrible pawn takes f7, which forces the king to capture. And you think that you're maybe a little alive here and you have time to think, but unfortunately there's a killer move that could be played, but it's not found by the white pieces, which is Spire to h3, and now the threat is to get here with check, and this is very hard to dodge here. Okay, you can push pawn to g6, maybe to try to defend at the same point. Only problem is now this is going to slide here to f3. Now this is double attacking this, so maybe this goes to h5 and the king has to stay in place to be sure that this would be defended here, and also defend this square because this spire targets this, so you have to be careful. But after that, the game can just continue, because now we would have a devil to e7 check, king to g8, okay, this is defended, so there's no checkmate, and this is defended this way, but now devil to e6 check, king to f8 is forced, and now the spire goes to e2, and now there's big threats going up here, sacrificing itself, and then you get the mate. Maybe you play the Mech to d8, and then you have the killer move spire to e5, and now there are too much threats to deal with, so you're going to lose this game. Okay, but instead in the game we have a long castle, which is perfectly playable, even this is a little long. Now we have tripod to d8, so now getting back the activity here, you don't have any good checks, so you have to retreat one square, so devil to e5 is played. Now the second tripod entered the game with tripod to e8, so somehow the aliens tried to make some counter push as they can. Devil to e4 is played, and now we have Mech to a5, trying I guess to exchange some material here. I'm not sure that this is that winning, but okay, this is a move that can be played. But rook to b5 is played, and now I guess the threat is to get here and try to get a fork. So now we have the triplet to e6 defending the square, and now we have Spire to e1. So Spire to e1 comes with a very concrete threat, is to try to pin this. If you, for example, play this, this tripod can't move anymore to try to defend the square here. So yeah, this is where it could be played. Now we have Mech to b4, which is played, so trying to attack further the Spire here. But now this is taken by the rook because they just forget that the rook can also get one square backwards. So just getting 11 points of material. So at this point, I don't know what Pouace can do in here. We have pawn to a5, which is tried, but now rook gets back to d3. And I guess the idea is to get to this square, and this looks very threatening. We have rook to b5, but here we have rook to c5, which is played. Also very good move, threats here, and try to get the Spire later on the game and try to get this very important check. So we have tripod to c6, and this is not the move to be played because there is a killer move that actually white can play here in this position. This is tragic. The move is default to f3, check, and this is check here, and this is going to lose a tripod, and then you don't have anything to do. So you could also try some other moves, like for example Spire to e3, which can be playable. Here the king doesn't have a lot of escape square here. You have a rook which can do some little damage here, but I think the idea of the fork was more efficient in this way, because this part takes a little time to get better position. So after a default to f3 check, this is in this position on move 26 that Pouace decided to resign the game, as there was nothing much to be done, unfortunately. So okay, the demons are way killer for now than the aliens, so good to know. So the idea is that, is someone going to beat the demons one day in this freaking tournament? I'm really wondering this. But anyways, we're going to move on to game 2, and we're going to witness it now. So for the second game, now Pouace gets the white pieces with the Angels faction, and Lolo gets the black pieces with the Kobolds faction. The Angels on some way can be invincible, so very hard to attack, also very cool for the attack on their side. On the other hand, the Kobold can dig into the ground and rise up on the next turn, and when they rise up they can knock out their opponent's piece which can't move or attack, so very cool for strikes and dirty tactics. So let's see how it goes. The game starts with pawn to e4, we have pawn to e5, front to f3, rat to c6, zealot to c4, the Italian game, we have mole to e7, short castle, pawn to d6, and now white strikes with pawn to d4, so nothing new, everything has already been played here. We have pawn captures d4. Please note in this position that both this pawn and this throne are invincible thanks to the gate, which protects the two pieces in front of it and can't be captured. Here you should recapture with the throne, and then there's captures, and here I mean you have to be a little careful to see what do you do in the position. Do you want to play this and run into this very weird thing, or do you want to do this and then okay, we don't know what happened on the board. So yeah, that could happen, but here in the game Pouace decided to play pawn to c3. And I can admit I don't understand this line, because now rat to e5 can be played, and even in classic chess here, do you really mind taking here with the queen, because now that would be doubled here and I don't feel comfortable here. Also, this is the angel, so this can't be taken, but at the same point you're playing with the angel, so this shield can't be taken by pawns, but also can't take pawns. And now this is a direct attack here on the zealot. So I was zealot to b3, and now the very simple pawn push. So you don't have anything to do here. So zealot to f4 is played, so trying to kick the rat here, and now rat gets to g6, and unfortunately again this is the angels playing, so you can't take it, and remember that this is attacked here. So we have zealot back to e3, so normally you can claim this pawn, but you don't have any piece for now that can really attack it, or maybe you have to maneuver a deep way to get this. So I don't know. We have rat to f6 now, continuing the attack over this pawn, and now we have front to g5. Front to g5 comes with a very concrete feature here, is to take here, and then something very bad happens to you. For example, let's say that you decide to capture, if you can't even capture here, you're going to get recaptured. So I don't know what you're supposed to do in this kind of position. Maybe you want to put the mole here, I don't know. You have to defend against this, because this is obviously the big threat. So short castle is played, and now the game continues. We have pawn to f4, so trying to strike a little in the field, and now the route gets to g4, and obviously he wants to take this zealot. So you have to think a little about what is going to happen here, because I guess the mole wants to take and then recapture. So a way to play this position is to play the very simple gate to e1, and then this becomes uncapturable, and this is still stayed at the right place. If you decide to capture, then this is just capture. And maybe later on you can decide to close this, and with this closure maybe you can try to capture here. So the position would get a little tricky. But instead, on the game, we have Zealot goes to d4, and I really like the way these Zealots align to the position. Only problem is that the Thrine is gonna die here, so we have mole captures g5, and a pawn captures g5. Now the Lancer captures, and we have this very odd position where, okay, there is no den in the way, but you have to be very careful, because at any time there is a tempo by sliding here and trying to get there for the mate. So you have to be very careful in this position. Something that could be tried is Zealot captures g7. The idea is that you can't capture it with the king, because this can't be captured one square away, and this threats this. Only problem being is that now you run into this ugly check with the Lancer on e3. And here, okay, you can't defend, then there's a king to h1, and now a rat to f2 with check, and if you decide to go here, run into the very known mate, where you go here, this is taken, and then you checkmate. So here, this has to be taken, and then after this, Lancer takes f2, okay, there's maybe capture, but I mean, the Kobolds are winning in this position, and soon a lot of pieces are going to join the party here. So I don't know what to think about this position. So instead we have shield to d2, trying to get for a queen trade. I mean, maybe you should not accept it, but here this is accepted by the Kobolds, so why not? After Lancer takes d2 and fruit takes d2, we have rat goes back to e5. And now what do you do in this kind of position? Here, what is tried by white is thrown to f3, so this is invincible, so again he wants to attack back. But now mole to e6 is played, so I don't care, because there's captures, a pawn in the center of the game, and then I'm going to strike this way. Here also it wants to get rid of the very nice diagonal path here, and this is very annoying, because do you really want to trade that and let the den be in the game? Here a very simple move to avoid this is to play get to b1. And this is something that should be played very often with the answers when you want to avoid trade. Just let the piece be invincible, and then this piece, okay, wouldn't be that well placed, and you can try to threat it later and claim by this diagonal here. So in the game, instead we have something else which is played, because the Zealot accept to trade with the mole, and after pawn captures, now we have Zealot captures, pawn captures, and gate to d1. So basically this is about to be claimed, but the Kobolds are still up some material here, and okay, with a rat and 2 dens into the game, this is favorable for them in the end game. So we have then to d8, gate captures, and now then to f6. And what's your following here? What I should play here is again gate to e3. What's the idea? Okay, you maybe give the open file here, but then you're going to capture this way, and this becomes invincible thanks to the gate, so you gain 1 pawn of material here, and later you can try to reclaim the file here. So okay, I don't know how the game continues, but for example, if the den tries to go to d2, then you just decide to go from to d3 and everything's defended, and maybe you try to get for a very nice trade, as I feel like the den is not well placed. But anyways, here this is not played, and now we have pawn to g3, so not allowing the rat to go further into the position, and this can be perfectly understandable. Now we have then to d6, so trying to claim, and here what do you do here? I mean, you can still go here, so they buy a move to get here, and maybe you try to get later on into the position, but instead in the game we have the gate to d1 which is played. A little passive here, but why not? This can be played. Maybe you could try to play this, and that can be understandable with this. If there is a trade, there is a trade. And if there is not a trade, then you can play this here, and this becomes invincible, and you could try to reroute later on somewhere. I don't know, this is very hard to play in this position. We have Ruat now gets the e4 pawn, so now it can go anywhere, but of course this is very well defended with pawn to e2. And now with pawn to d2 you can't put your rat anywhere good, so Ruat goes to d7. Only problem now is that none of this can capture for a turn, so this is somehow attacked, but thanks to the ability this is also defended, can't be taken. So we go in this very weird position. Now we're thrown back to f3, so just cancelling the move and try, okay, what are you gonna do now? And now the rat goes the other way to c5 and try to get to this pawn. So here we have gate to e1, which is played, and now the rat enters the position, goes to d3. And this gets very tricky here, because you can't stop the rat from doing anything here. So yeah, this becomes complicated for me. So here something is tried, is gate to e2, and now with great ease the rat can decide to do this right to e2, and then where do you put that? Maybe you can decide to put it here, but then there's going to be check. You can't put that here as going to be taken, you can't take back because the king would be in the way. So let's say the king decides to go to g2. Here this starts to become a little complicated here. I don't calculate the rest of the position, but maybe we can have something very delightful here. I mean, you can decide to go for the tray if you want, and after this maybe you can play a rat to f1, so there's a thread here. So where do you put the throne here? The gate, maybe you try to put it here, but now the rat is just going to to join a position, and after this we run into a very complicated endgame. So because this is attacked, no, this is attacked, and you can't capture that. I don't know. Always messy to play the Kobolds here. But instead in the position we have then to a6, which is played. I guess the idea is to remove this, and now get to d2 is played, so attacking the rat. And I would say this is pretty effective as a move, because you don't have a good way to put your rat somewhere. So maybe you try to defend it back, but that seems pretty weak. So we have rat to c5, and now a throne captures, so claiming back the pawn. We have rat captures e4, so this is an equal trade. And after gate to e2, we have a rat back to c5. We have pawn to b3, so defending the a2 pawn, and now the then slides back to d6. We have a throne to c4, and now then to d3. So the idea here is to try to get into the position and try to get a cool square for the rat to threat to rise. But here you don't have a good square to do it. So get to c2 is played, and defends the pawn at the same time really well. And now rat goes back to d7. Here, okay, the game continues. I guess you can try now to navigate a little, even this looks pretty hard. I don't have a good way to continue. Maybe you want to put that here, even that would... Okay, I don't know, you try to get this position, even I'm not convinced of this. What else can you try? Maybe you try to align this in the same file, but you run into this check and then you try to survive this. I don't know. This is hard to play. But here you shouldn't play what the white pieces just played. After king to g2, you see later that this king is very bad placed, but you can't find this. Pawn to h6, gate to e1, then to f3, and you see now why the king is never put in the right way. Just a simple borrow somewhere, I don't know, and then this is check, and you're going to have some big problems here. And this happens because of pawn to a4, which is a massive blunder here, because it allows the rat to unburrows with rat burrows to a4, and now this is check, because it threats to go through and capture. So there's only one square where you put the king, which is g1, and look at this. Have you seen a lot of squares like this where you can rise? This is just that intense. So very hard to survive this position. And you have rat rise on e2 with check. The king doesn't have a lot of good squares because you can obviously capture here. So let's say that you decide to go to h1. Then I think you can't put that here, because now that would be awake and you're going to be captured. No, this is still check. So after king goes here, then you'll be able to give another check. No, there's no way to do this. There's no use. You just capture here and you up a piece. So here in this position, after the thing rise here, we have king to g2, and now then to f2 with check. Here, I try to remember what was my plan here. Oh yeah, you can't go here. So here is your only good square. So king to g2 is played, and now you have then to f2 with check. So here, where do you run with the king? Okay, if you decide to run with h1, okay, this is unparalyzed, so the position is cool. But you have to be very careful because maybe, I say maybe, they can have some tentative to do somewhere, I don't know. Maybe gets back, I don't know. King to h5 seems not to be that bad move. I mean, you're going to take here and have captures, you're going to go here. And now you're just going to defend this. And then, okay, there's no pawn which going to be captured, but there's a threat of checkmate going along the way, for example with this. I don't know. Here in this position, king to h3 is tried, but it goes with the same idea. Right to f4, pawn captures, then to c2, and then you can't defend the two pawns, and then this is captured. Something else that you could try, which is a little tricky, is to put the right rather to g1, and after captures here, you capture this way, and you can't defend this pawn. And here the king's pretty exposed. So I rather like this position because it buys one move to put the gate out. So I don't know. So after the sequence here, we have then captures f4, and okay, this is difficult for the angels to get something, but here they fall into a big trap, which is gate to takes e6. And now we have then takes c3, and you have to be that precise to be sure not to have any problem, because the throne is experiencing bad time here. What you should do is to play the throne to d2 in this position. Even this looks like terrifying, because you can... Oh, this doesn't work, right? Because now you run into then to d3. And now, do you have a way to defend this position? Yeah. So I miscalculated. So maybe you play this then from to a3. It looks terrifying here, because now this is going to be taken, and maybe you survive here. But now there's check, and I have to go here. Maybe you're going to get harassed this way, I don't know. I don't feel like you're going to spend good time. So, yeah, very complicated. So, okay, front to d2 doesn't work, excuse me, I didn't calculate it. I didn't remember that this was range 4. So, now we have front to e5, which is played, and unfortunately this is not better, because after then to e3 check and king to g2, we have the very terrible then to e4, and now we have no way to defend this row. We have gate to e8, which is tried, and king to h7 is played, and this is in this position on move 44 that Pouace decides to resign the game, because there is nothing much to be done. So, very incredible game. Again, you'll see all the strength of the Kobolds, and I have to say a lot of people didn't like the Kobolds at first, and with this recent patch, they get very interesting. I have to say thanks to Lo to play really well this faction. So, we're going to see each other next time for another encounter on this round 3 of the Matches Neura tournament. See you then. Bye.